My name is Hamad. I lived for years in Bahla, in the heart of Oman, a place the older people call the city of Jinn. People come to see the fort and the market, but they do not come for the one thing Bahla hides at night. Now, I will tell you what I saw. I was there. I still wake to the smell of that ash. This is how it began. The day was hot and dry, like most days. At dusk, the town folds in on itself. Doors close. Lamps are lit. The old alleys breathe out a cold that seems to come from the ground. That night, I was on my roof, watching the sun dive behind the palm trees. My friend Yusuf was with me. We heard a sound first, a tiny crack, like a twig snapping in a dry yard. Then a whisper of heat lifted from the sand behind a neighbor's house. At first we thought it was a match, a careless cigarette. Then a flicker rose, not orange like a normal flame, but green, bright, and thin. It hovered above the sand for a few seconds, like a lantern held by an invisible hand. It made a little, high cackle, a sound like someone laughing inside glass. The flame rose higher, and with it came a smell, not of smoke, but of iron and old honey. I will never forget that noise. It was alive and cruel. That was the first thing I could not explain. We chased the light. People came pouring out of houses, robes thrown over bare shoulders, ankles showing in the dust. We saw it again behind Alanai's yard, a small blaze that burned green and cool, the sand around it untouched. Then it winked out as if it had never been there. An old man said he saw a pale woman in rags standing on the cedar tree, and the flames sprang after her like a dog. She vanished. The leaves on the cedar looked as if they had been licked by frost. No soot, no burned footprints. Only a memory of heat. That night the story spread. Bahla has always had stories, of walls built overnight by unseen hands, of sisters who called spirits to make a fort, of a man stoned for sorcery long ago. People here passed these stories like heirlooms. But what unsettled us was not the old tales. It was the way stone cracked without reason. The next morning we woke to find a section of an old house's mud wall crumbled from the inside out. The plaster was whole on the outside, but behind it the bricks had simply fallen away, as if some patient hand had eaten them. No earthquake, no heavy rain, just empty space where solid ground had been. The masons could not explain it. The strange flashes kept happening. Lamps would go out in the middle of a sentence. Food left on a table would be scattered but not touched by animals. At one small shop, a pile of firewood caught, not in a spark, but in a little green breathing that seemed to come up from the stones. The wood blackened, then fell apart into dust, and if you sniffed, you tasted the same iron note in your mouth. We tried to account for every cause. We tested matches, we measured the wind. The facts did not fit our lives anymore. People began to hear things at night, not simply the wind, but voices woven into the wind, tiny fragments of laughter, creaks that sounded like doors opening in empty houses. Some children reported seeing a thin shadow walk along the alley walls where no person could be. An old neighbor swore his goat refused to graze near a corner because something sat there like a man and watched. We laughed at first, told ourselves the desert made myths. Then the fortrites found that an unmoved block had been shifted while the surrounding mortar stayed firm. That is when the talk hardened. People began to say the word, Jinn. I remember the night a family's house burned at noon with no smoke. Ash lay inside like someone had combed the floor with a hand of flame. Their rugs were dust. The pots were still warm, but the fire had left no tracks outside the doors. Even the sparrows kept away for days. An imam came to pray. He read verses and blessed the corners. The family moved away a week later, eyes hollow. They left behind a house that the rain would not touch. It stayed dry inside, even when storms came. We asked why, and the answer came back like a song we were tired of. This place belongs to them, sometimes. Some people took action they thought, wrongly, necessary. They brought exorcists from other towns. They offered bread and milk at the ruined corners, and more than once a man was found leaving small offerings under a boulder at dusk. Others asked scholars to pray and read holy texts. In Bahla, religion and legend braid together. Prayer is a weapon as much as anything. The imams said be careful. The elders said leave the old stones alone. The young men said to record, to prove, to chase. We did both, prayed and filmed. The cameras showed empty streets and shadows. They showed nothing dancing in the flames. But cameras are glass and glass is blind to some things. One night changed everything for me. I was coming home late from the market. The moon was fat. I cut through an alley near the fort, and the ground under my feet felt wrong, soft as bread. A thin wall that many had walked past for years had a wide crack, like a mouth opening, and from that crack I heard something breathing. Not wind, not an animal. A slow, patient intake of air, like a giant sleeping in the stone. I touched the wall. It was warm where it should have been cool. For a moment the sound stopped. Then, from nowhere, a flame rose and licked across the wall's inner face, and I saw for a second, only for a second, what looked like a face in the curling smoke. Pale, long, smiling without lips. I ran. My feet did not want to leave. They did. Not everyone believes in jinn. Some say these are natural phenomena we do not understand. Odd chemistry, subterranean gases, old foundations hollowing. Others say fame has fed the fear. Tour guides told tales to entertain tourists, and stories grew like mold. Both are true in a way. Bahla is real and beautiful, and Bahla is full of stories that will not die. But for those of us who were there when the green fire danced and the wall sighed, the question is different. We are not arguing proofs. We are living with questions that leave a scar across sleep. I tell you all of this because for me the terror was not any one event. It was the slow unmaking of certainty. You stop trusting your eyes. You stop sleeping with the door open. You start to smell copper in the air when nothing has been cut. You wake with a small dust of ash on your blanket. In Bahla, the stones remember. Some mornings the alleys look older, like memory outpacing time. People will stand and whisper to children, "Don't pass the fort after dusk." They mean it. If you imagine any one of these stories as mere story, I beg you to think of the people. The family who found their yard burning in green at midnight. The mason who found his wall hollow. The child who refuses to sleep near the old gate. These are not myths to them. They are things that change the way whole families live. We did not leave Bahla in droves. The town is still full of life by day. But by night some corners are kept sacred with salt and prayer, and some alleys have been avoided for years. I do not tell you this to frighten you without reason. I tell you because it happened to me, in the place I called home. The green fire, the cracking walls, the things that laugh like glass, they are things people in Bahla have reported and feared for decades. The fort may stand proud in daylight, and the tourist brochures will call it ancient and majestic. But remember the quiet at dusk, and the way the stones sometimes seem to hold their breath. This is not fiction. These are true accounts from Bahla, stories told by neighbors, by elders, and by reporters who came to listen. Whether you call it spirit, memory, or mystery, the fear was real. I was there. I still listen for the cackle.